Welcome to this series where I am tackling one of the most pressing questions many of us are facing today. The question is, why can't I get my breakthrough? In my previous 3 episodes, we tackled 3 most common areas that stop people from experiencing breakthrough in their lives. Those 3 areas were relationship with parents, sexual purity, and idolatry and occult. In those 3 episodes, I have briefly explained from biblical and Christian ministry perspectives why so many people seem unable to get their breakthrough despite all the money, time, and energy expended. When things can't get resolved naturally, look at the spiritual roots. There's always a reason for everything under the sun. God knows it all. In this episode, I would like to share some real-life stories about people who have applied what the Bible teaches about these 3 areas. They have experienced their breakthrough and found their freedom. Through these stories, I want to inspire you to have faith in God and to reach out to Him and get your breakthrough. The first story has to do with a relationship with parents. When reconciliation happened, healing also occurred. Here's the story. My wife used to have a prayer group in our house years ago where the mothers from the school would come together to pray for their kids and also for their teachers. In one of those prayer meetings, there was a Chinese lady who was very smart, very dedicated, very good looking, very professional. She was a good wife and a loving mother of 2 kids who was also part of the group that my wife was leading. One day she felt pain in her lower abdomen and it was really very bad, so she asked her husband to take her to the hospital. The doctor checked and found that on one of her ovaries there was a large tumor. So they scheduled an operation for a few months down the road where she would have her ovary taken out along with the tumor. So she started to pray and asked God for a supernatural healing because she did not want to go through that surgery. She wanted to keep her ovary. She shared this with her prayer group. My wife, Carol, had a book by Henry Wright in those days that was called A More Excellent Way, Be in Health. She gave that book to this Chinese lady. She took that book home and read and found out that a root of her female problem could be her relationship with her mom. You see, she grew up in a Chinese family, and in a typical Chinese family, expressions of love and affirmation were not common. Chinese families are known for hard work and performance orientation. So she grew up in a home where she had to perform, do her chores, always worked hard in order to find affirmation from her mom and dad. So she grew up quite bitter and resentful, not having received unconditional love, especially from her mom. She found that she had bitterness and unforgiveness in her heart. And she found that if she wanted to get a breakthrough in her health, she needed to be reconciled to her mom. So she went to her mom, asked for her forgiveness, got reconciled to her, came home, and prayed for the tumor to disappear. At first, nothing happened. A few months later, she found that she started to feel a little better. So when the date came for her to get the surgery done, she decided not to go to the hospital and not to get operated upon. She waited another few months. And then she decided that it was time to go back and have another checkup with a doctor. She did, and to her surprise, rather to the doctor's surprise, she found out that she was totally healed. The tumor has disappeared. This happened years ago, and even today, she is completely healed. The second story has to do with a person who, when he realized how he had dishonored his parents, repented and made amends, and that changed the trajectory of his life. Here's a story. There was a man who became a believer at around 17 years old during the last year of his high school. And when he became a believer, he realized that there was a huge gap between his faith and his parents' faith. They were Hindus, he had become a Christian. And because of that, he started to withdraw emotionally from his parents, and the distance kept growing. His dad, when he found out that he had become Christian, was not really pleased with him and started to try to change him back to the family faith. But as he found out that the son was pretty strong in his faith, in his Christian faith, and would not change, the father became angrier and angrier with the son, and the distance kept growing. Years went by. One time, this man had an opportunity to learn about honoring the parents, and as he was learning this, he realized that he had dishonored parents in his heart. He had allowed distance to grow between him and his parents, and things would have to change. He repented of dishonoring the parents before God and became intentional to visit his parents and to stay connected with them. His parents became older and weaker in their health, and they had not become believers yet, so he was very concerned about his parents' eternal destiny. His dad got pneumonia and became critically ill. His pastor became involved with the dad's family, and he provided a wheelchair for his dad and started to visit his dad and his mom regularly. The hearts of his dad's family and the relatives who were living close by became open to the pastor, so that this pastor was allowed to visit them on a regular basis. So they were Hindus, and they were letting a Christian pastor come and visit them. So over the years, Dad's heart became softer, and he opened up more and more to Christ, but he had not come to Christ yet. So this man started to visit his dad more regularly, and they kept in touch, and he tried to connect with his parents, both his parents, more and more, and he kept honoring his parents, and things started to get better in his own life. He started to see more financial blessings in his own family. They didn't own a house before that, and God provided for them to buy a house debt-free. And then, not only that, but God also provided for the children's education in an international school, which was quite expensive. They had all the money they needed to educate their kids. On the parent side, they became more and more open to the gospel. Eventually, his dad gave his life to the Lord a little over a week before he passed away. A few years later, his mom also gave her life to the Lord before she passed away. So God kept blessing this man. He and his wife has now acquired another house, much bigger and much better than the first house. So now they have two properties. Like what the Bible says, when we honor our parents, we will live long and things will go well for us. This man is no other than yours truly. The third story is about sexual purity. This is what I have read about in a book and not someone I know personally. It showed me that when one gets right with God in the area of sexual purity, marriage relationships get renewed and become healthy. Here's a story. There was a Christian girl who was engaged to a man to be married sometime later. She got into a fight with her parents one day. She got upset, went to a bar, got drunk, passed out. The next morning, she found herself lying naked next to a man she did not know. She went home feeling very dirty and ashamed. Sometime later, she found out that she was pregnant. She was already engaged to a man, but she could not garner enough courage to tell him what had happened because of shame and guilt. She got abortion done secretly, never told him a word. Sometime later, they got married. From the honeymoon night, she found out that she could not enjoy sex with her husband. She thought that she was just too tired that night after the wedding. But years went by and their sexual life never got better. Both were frustrated. Husband could not understand why. She was always withdrawing from sex. Every sexual encounter with her husband always reminded her of the night she got drunk and had sex with a stranger. It brought guilt and pain each time. After so many years, she heard about freedom from sexual sins. She learned that she needed to open up to her husband. She went home that night and shared with him. Both of them cried together. He forgave her and asked her to forgive him for not understanding her struggles. That night, he showered her and anointed her with oil, prayed cleansing over her, and they had the best sex ever since they got married. Since then, things changed so much. Sex became pleasurable for both of them. They fell in love with each other all over again. Their marriage was restored and healed. The fourth story happened in one of my classes called Set My People Free, which is a teaching I referred to in my previous episode. I was teaching on chapter 8 of Set My People Free on a lesson that had to do with idolatry and occult. Someone received their physical healing even without me knowing. What had happened that day was that at the end of asking people to confess their sins of idolatry and occult and renouncing their past practices, at the end of the class, I had asked everyone who had some problems with their body to lay hands on the problem area, and we prayed for healing together. Now, there was a woman who was supposed to go for a surgery to remove a tumor from her female organ, scheduled for that evening after the class, and I did not know anything about it. She had a tumor, so she put her hand where the tumor was, and she felt the tumor shrink. And then later on, she went to see the doctor, and the doctor confirmed that the tumor had disappeared. So this story showed clearly that her problem had to do with idolatry and occult, and was not just a physical problem. So the point of sharing all these stories is so that you will have proof that what I am teaching is for real and it does work. In my next episode, I shall be sharing with you some additional keys to help increase your freedom. So stay in tune. See you in the next episode. God bless you.